The night sky over the Mediterranean erupted in sudden flashes of fire. Drones silent until the instant of impact sliced through the darkness and unleashed a barrage that turned a peaceful humanitarian mission into a scene of chaos. Explosions thundered across the waves as desperate crew members scrambled for cover. What was meant to be a lifeline to Gaza became, in this imagined scenario, a terrifying testament to the deadly reach of modern military technology. Welcome back to my channel. Tonight, we examine a hypothetical escalation that sends ripples far beyond the Middle East. Picture this: a civilian flotilla carrying aid supplies bound for Gaza is struck by what witnesses might describe as a merciless drone attack, leaving multiple vessels damaged and sparking international outrage. Activists aboard such a convoy could report hearing the unmistakable buzz of incoming drones moments before a series of rapid-fire explosions lights up the sea. While no such incident has been confirmed, the very plausibility of this scenario highlights the extraordinary capabilities and dangers of today's unmanned weapons. Modern drones can carry precision munitions capable of striking small, fast-moving targets in open water. Their operators may remain hundreds or even thousands of miles away, watching in real time through high-resolution sensors and adjusting tactics second by second. For those on the receiving end, there is almost no warning, just the sudden roar of an explosion where silence ruled moments before. Imagine the convoy itself, ships loaded with medical supplies, food, and water filtration equipment desperately needed by civilians inside a blockaded enclave. Organizers notify international maritime authorities of their route and intentions, attempting to operate fully within the bounds of maritime law. Yet, in the tense climate of the region, where naval patrols and surveillance drones prowl constantly, even a civilian convoy might be interpreted or misinterpreted as a threat. Eyewitnesses in this scenario might describe drones approaching low over the waves before releasing their payloads. Some crew members could recall a sharp, metallic hum seconds before the blasts. It was like the sky itself was hunting us, an activist might say over a crackling satellite phone connection. The psychological toll of such an attack cannot be overstated. Unlike conventional airstrikes, drone assaults are often invisible until it is too late. The absence of a pilot, the lack of any visible aircraft, creates a chilling sense that the strike is both everywhere and nowhere at once. The strategic use of drones in maritime settings is no longer theoretical. From the Red Sea to the Black Sea, naval forces have increasingly turned to unmanned systems to extend their reach while reducing risk to human pilots. Striking a declared humanitarian convoy, however, would push this technology into a new and deeply controversial arena. International law grants special protections to vessels engaged in humanitarian relief. Any violation of these protections would invite global condemnation and raise the specter of war crimes investigations. Modern combat drones are a fusion of surveillance, stealth, and deadly precision. Platforms in active service today can carry high-explosive micro-munitions designed to inflict maximum structural damage while minimizing radar detection. Unlike manned aircraft, drones can remain airborne for hours, even days, relaying live video feeds to operators sitting in secure command centers far away from the danger zone. Their sensors can detect a ship's movement, lock onto heat signatures, and calculate strike trajectories in fractions of a second. For those on the receiving end, this means that the decision to attack can be made and executed almost instantaneously, long before targets can react or take evasive action. This level of automation is transforming warfare into a high-tech chess match. Where once nations relied on aircraft carriers, warships, and battalions of soldiers, a handful of drones can now achieve strategic objectives with surgical efficiency. In contested waters, drones patrol, gather intelligence, and enforce blockades, creating a constant shadow over civilian shipping lanes. The imagined Gaza Flotilla strike serves as a chilling reminder of how easily humanitarian operations could become entangled in this invisible web of surveillance and potential attack. The Middle East remains one of the world's most volatile regions, where tensions between Israel, Palestinian factions, and neighboring powers simmer continually. Humanitarian convoys attempting to break or ease blockades are often viewed through a lens of military risk, no matter how well intentioned their mission. In a region where the line between civilian and combatant is blurred by decades of conflict, the deployment of cutting-edge drone warfare raises profound legal and ethical questions. International law theoretically provides protections for humanitarian aid missions, but drone warfare exposes the fragility of those safeguards. Unlike traditional naval engagements, where ships can identify each other and communicate intentions, drones can strike without warning, often leaving no identifiable pilot or nation to hold accountable. Plausible deniability becomes a shield against international condemnation. Whoever might launch an attack, if such an event were ever to occur, could claim misidentification, technical error, or blame rival factions. The fog of war becomes denser when the weapons themselves are unmanned. Should such an attack ever take place, global reaction would be swift. Diplomats from the United Nations and the European Union would likely call for an immediate investigation, demanding transparency from all regional actors capable of carrying out such a sophisticated strike. Human rights organizations would rush to collect testimonies and satellite imagery to piece together a timeline of events. Meanwhile, militaries around the world would watch closely. The incident would underscore how drones, once a niche capability, have become central to the projection of power and the shaping of conflicts far from traditional battlefields. In Washington, Pentagon analysts would no doubt review satellite data to understand how such a precise strike could be carried out against a publicly declared aid mission. European defense ministers would convene emergency consultations, mindful that Europe's crowded Mediterranean shipping lanes remain a tempting target for those seeking to disrupt trade or send a geopolitical message. Across the Middle East, governments operating their own drone programs would scramble to issue carefully calibrated statements, condemning any attack on civilians while avoiding commitments that expose their own vulnerabilities. The scenario resonates with conflicts elsewhere. In Ukraine, drones have turned the skies into a constant battlefield where small quadcopters and long-range strike platforms alike dictate the tempo of war. In the South China Sea, unmanned surveillance aircraft routinely shadow naval patrols, testing the patience of rival powers. In Yemen and the Red Sea, commercial tankers have already faced drone attacks that disrupt global shipping routes. A hypothetical strike on a humanitarian flotilla would not be an isolated event. It would fit a global pattern where unmanned systems are redefining the reach and rules of combat. Experts warn that as drone technology becomes cheaper and more accessible, the danger will only grow. Nations, militias, and even non-state actors now have access to platforms that once required billion-dollar defense budgets. Off-the-shelf components, artificial intelligence, and satellite communications mean that a small, determined group can acquire lethal capabilities once reserved for superpowers. Humanitarian corridors, once protected by international consensus, are increasingly vulnerable to actors willing to exploit this technological revolution. The psychological impact is equally profound. Survivors of real drone strikes often describe the terror of hearing a distant hum that might, or might not, signal imminent death. The absence of a visible enemy creates a climate of fear and helplessness that lingers long after the attack ends. For aid workers and activists, the mere possibility of drones overhead can force agonizing decisions about whether to proceed with critical missions. Every successful strike, real or hypothetical, on a civilian or aid convoy increases the risk that future missions will be deterred. Aid organizations already face dangers from shelling, kidnapping, and disease. Adding an invisible enemy that can strike at any time magnifies the peril and raises the cost of humanitarian action. Accountability in the drone age. What makes this scenario particularly unsettling is the erosion of accountability. Traditional warfare comes with chains of command and rules of engagement. Drones blur those lines. A strike can be launched from thousands of miles away, the operator hidden behind layers of encryption and proxy servers. Even when fragments of a drone are recovered, tracing its true origin can take months, if it is possible at all. This ambiguity allows state and non-state actors alike to deny responsibility, fueling conspiracy theories and prolonging conflicts. International agreements to regulate drone use remain weak and fragmented. Nations capable of enforcing restrictions are often the same ones most invested in maintaining drone superiority. Until the world bridges this gap, humanitarian missions will continue to sail under skies filled with unseen threats. The imagined attack on a Gaza aid flotilla underscores an urgent need for global action. The technology to carry out such strikes already exists. Only political will and international norms stand between potential attackers and their targets. Nations must confront the uncomfortable reality that they cannot legislate drones out of existence, but they can work toward enforceable agreements that define where and how unmanned systems may operate. Without such measures, every convoy, every aid mission, and every civilian caught in contested waters will remain vulnerable to the next merciless barrage. The future of war has arrived, and it does not wait for treaties or moral debates. Drones now patrol the world's seas and skies, capable of striking faster than diplomacy can respond. Whether this hypothetical scenario remains fiction or becomes tomorrow's headline depends on the choices the international community makes today.